Life Issues. I'm Foy Storm, and I have a very quick question for you. And that question is, how are you? How the devil art thou? It's been such a long time. I haven't spoken to you since last year. Corny joke, I know, but I just couldn't help myself. It looks like we've survived the annual celebration known as Christmas and its annoying younger sibling known as New Year. 2018 is now a reflection in the rearview mirror of our lives that keeps getting smaller the further we move away from it, and 2019 is already underway. You know, I don't know about you, but it really didn't feel like Christmas this year. Everywhere I went, the atmosphere that is normally associated with Christmas just wasn't there, and I wasn't the only one that noticed it. Most people I spoke to felt the same way. Hell, I was even in a taxi at one point, and even the taxi driver was like, "It just don't feel like Christmas this year." And New Year didn't feel like New Year to me either. My Christmas unfortunately started with a bereavement. An uncle of mine had passed away after a battle with cancer, which made things a little weird. This isn't the first time that a family member, friend, or family friend has passed away either at Christmas or close to Christmas. So that kind of hung over my family's head as we celebrated the holidays. I also had to have a tooth taken out a few days before Christmas arrived, but that didn't get in the way of things too much, and I got a couple of cool things at Christmas. My sister got me an Inhumans t-shirt that glows in the dark, and I got a new Exorcist t-shirt as well, which I was grateful for, especially as my old Exorcist t-shirt wasn't the best quality shirt in the world and had seen better days. I also got a set of Stranger Things figures, the McFarlane ones of Mike, Lucas, Dustin and Will dressed as Ghostbusters. So at present I can say that my Stranger Things toy collection is up to date, until the next bunch of figures are released, nearer spring that is. Well, I don't have the squeezable dart toy that was released, but I'm okay with that. I don't really count that as part of the collection anyway. However, as you may or may not know, I have a severely mentally handicapped older brother who I have back from the home over Christmas, and he got a cold just in time for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, which he then gave to me in time for New Year, which makes it the weirdest Christmas present a family member has ever got me. And to be fair, I didn't think that anyone could top the year that my mother gave me an Easter egg for Christmas. Before now, it had been about 5 years since I last had a cold, and when this one hit me, it hit me hard. I know some people who take the approach of, work through it, just do what you would normally do and before long it will be gone. And to be fair, I would normally take that approach, but there was something about this one that just knocked me on my ass. It was full-on man flu. There was sweating, coughing, temperature fluctuation, an overabundance of nose blowing, and so much more. I did so much eating and sleeping, because that was literally all I could do. The last time I had a cold of that magnitude or similar was a couple of days before I had a convention appearance, and during it, my ears started to ache real bad, and I thought I had got an ear infection at the same time as getting a cold. So one evening I laid my head down to get a nap, and all of a sudden I could feel all this pressure in my nose and sinuses and in both my ears, and then I heard this weird sound. It was like my head was underwater, and then there was this almighty pop, and I could feel something wet in my ear. So I tried to get up and I had no balance. I fell to the floor and there was this clear discharge coming from my ears. So I got to the doctor the next day, and it turned out that the cold had caused both my eardrums to become perforated. And stupidly, I still appeared at the convention. And on the first day of this particular convention, they had an opening ceremony where the attendees are sat in front of a stage and the guests come out one by one, say a little something, and then the convention is declared open and some pyrotechnics go off. So they get me on stage. I say my piece. They work through the other guests, and then the pyrotechnics went off, right next to where I was sat on stage, which didn't help one bit. Anyway, this particular cold that I got didn't just come at Christmas, it came at the right time to last the entirety of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. In fact, I think I've still got a little bit of it lingering now as we speak. So even though I don't mean to sound melodramatic here, I ended 2018 feeling like shit and started 2019 feeling like shit as well. But hey, I survived, and at least the first few days of 2019 involved me slowly getting better and recovering from my cold. Well, as far as I can tell, like I said, I think I may still have little remnants of that cold left over. And it ain't a big deal that I wasn't well for New Year, because I'm not the kind of guy who enjoys going out for New Year anyway. It's not just the fact that I would be spending money to go to a place that would be free to enter on any other day of the year, or the fact that I would end up paying twice or even 3 times as much money for a drink. I just don't enjoy going out for that kind of thing. I've never really been that big into pubbing or clubbing, especially for New Year. Although in the past I did do my fair share of it, but I didn't really enjoy it. So it didn't make a difference to my usual plans. Which, just in case you were wondering, what I normally like to do for New Year is I like to stay in, grab a takeaway, and maybe a glass of red wine, and just watch a couple of movies. Usually a couple of movies that I wanted to see earlier that year but never got around to it. Unfortunately, the takeaway joint I like to order from was closed this year, and I didn't get around to watching a couple of movies that I wanted to catch up on. But that was mostly because I was feeling a little nostalgic at the time, so I just slapped on some of my favourite movies from the 70s, 80s and 90s. Which got me thinking about why nostalgia is still such a big thing right now. Especially nostalgia for the 80s. I mean, I have my theories, but I'll save them for another time. And in all fairness, it didn't stop me from doing something that I usually do every year, whether I intend to or not. And that's reflecting on the year that is about to end, and thinking about the new year and what it could hold in store and the goals I would like to accomplish in the new year. It's amazing how much of a contrast there is when you're at the beginning of the year thinking about what you would like to accomplish, and then where you are and what you have accomplished by the end of that same year. The contrast between the paths you walk down, both planned and unplanned, are really interesting to me. I remember that at the beginning of 2018, I was planning on doing so many challenges related to art and comics, and then I got to a point early on where I realised that I wouldn't be happy doing that, so I walked away from that idea. But then, later on in the year, one thing that I didn't plan on was going on a diet and losing weight. Yet, on Christmas Eve, I got to celebrate being on the carnivore diet for 8 months and dropping so much weight that I have had to seriously take into account that I'm going to have to replace most of my wardrobe in 2019 because it just doesn't fit me anymore. I think, as a whole, 2018 may not have been a year to write home about, but it wasn't bad. There were a couple of moments I could have done without, but all in all, I think it was actually a pretty good year. And in all honesty, I think 2019 is going to be a year of mystery for me. Some years, just as they're about to begin, I can say without a shadow of a doubt on whether I feel that the year will be good or bad. But I can't say either way how I feel about 2019 and how it will go for me. And that's not a bad thing. Yeah, sure, I think it's going to be a great year, but I don't have a strong feeling that says it's going to be a super fucking awesome year or a pretty good year. And I kinda like that. It makes me feel like it's up to me how good it's going to be. There's something I really like about that. It reminds me of the lyrics to a song by the band Hatebreed called This Is Now. And those lyrics go, "This is now, how can I change tomorrow if I can't change today? This is now, if I control myself, I control my destiny." I don't really do New Year's resolutions. I think laying down a bunch of resolutions for the new year is kind of tempting fate. You're subconsciously putting a ton of pressure on yourself because it can't be a resolution unless you succeed at it, and you must succeed at it on the first day of the new year. And that just ain't my style. I like to set goals, things to try, and if it works out, then great. And if it doesn't, I won't beat myself up over it. And one of the goals that I've set out for myself this year involves this very podcast. I mean, I like the way it's going, and as time goes by, a few more of you are sitting down and giving it some time, which is great, and I really appreciate it. But I'm one of those people who always wants to improve the quality of my craft and art, and this podcast is no exception to that. I want to seriously take a look at what works with this podcast and keep those elements. But I also want to try a couple of new things and take a closer look at the stuff that maybe doesn't work so well and either improve it or remove it. In fact, one thing I'm trying, which you may or may not have noticed already, is in this episode, and it's a little something in the background. You see, just before Christmas, I got given a candle. Now, this candle comes from a company called Woodwick. They don't use traditional wicks in their candles. They have a wooden wick that when you light it, it replicates the sound of a bonfire. At first, I thought this would be a tacky gimmick that wouldn't work, but I tried it and I found the sound it created so relaxing. I'm dying to get a bunch more of them, because it's really nice on a cold winter's night to light up one of those candles and curl up with a good book or a movie. So in the background of this episode, you should be able to hear a little something. The sounds of a bonfire. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think of that, and hopefully you guys find it as relaxing as I do. But if the consensus is you don't like it, then I won't keep it, but I gotta admit, I kinda dig it, so I'm really hoping you guys do too. I also want to improve the quality of my weekly live stream, the Storm Digest, which you can catch on my YouTube channel. I know that those of you who watch it enjoy it, and I want to keep all of the elements that you guys enjoy in the show. But I also want to try new things with it, and improve the aspects that you guys don't enjoy so much. I mentioned my diet earlier. Back in April 24th to be precise, I decided to take the plunge and go on the carnivore diet, something that I was uncertain about doing at first, though I had heard very good things about it from sources who I trusted. And before long, I discovered that it was one of the best choices I had made for myself, and I lost a tremendous amount of weight because of it. I could still lose a little more, and to be fair, I've definitely gained a few pounds thanks to the Christmas season, but that's okay. It was bound to happen. Most people who go on the carnivore diet tend to not have any cheat days whatsoever, but I did it differently. Monday to Friday, I would eat 3 meals of meat, and more meat. Nothing else, which, to be fair, my little fox friend Buddy really enjoyed that. It meant that if I was eating steak, so was he. But at the weekends, I would eat whatever I liked, including meat, of course. And most of the time, that meant that I had a couple of pancakes for breakfast and a couple of bagels with my lunch. I would occasionally have some candy or chocolate on those cheat days, but not that often. And within a matter of 2, maybe 3 months, I shed so much weight that I couldn't keep my jeans up even with the aid of a belt. It was unreal, and I noticed so many health benefits with it. I've suffered with insomnia for an incredible amount of my life, but during my dieting, I have found it difficult to stay up past 11:30 at night. I can't even remember the last time I had a bout of insomnia because of it, and my energy levels have been fantastic. So I'm going to continue with the diet. I have no reason not to at this stage, and while my original goal was just to lose some weight and not worry about a beach-ready body, I do want to get that little closer to having a flat stomach. And I've also decided that in 2019, on my cheat days, I'm going to keep sugar out of the equation. Which will be tough, because once in a blue moon I like a donut or a cookie. Although, with that being said, I had a donut over Christmas, and before that the last time I had a donut was Christmas 2017. So, to prepare for this, I have bought some sugar-free cookies and given them a taste test, and I kinda like them. So if all goes well, I will be cutting out sugar from my diet even on my cheat days. But I'm still going to have a couple of bagels on my cheat days because, well, I love a good bagel with some delicious bacon. I think it goes without saying that some of my goals for 2019 will obviously revolve around my storytelling. I always believe that regardless of whether you're Joe Schmo or Stephen King, you should always do what you can to continually study and improve your creative skills, which for me consists of writing, art, and music. I was given a fairly new book on writing comics for Christmas, which I've just finished reading, and I have a small stack of books about writing that I'm ready to dive into. I also have a wish list of books about writing stories that I hope to obtain throughout the year and learn from, even if they only teach me stuff that I already know and I already utilize in my storytelling. But my real goal, which is usually a goal that I have every year, is to publish as many stories and books as I possibly can, and I hope it's more than what I published in the previous year. and I've already begun to make a good start on that. Especially as my first book of the year, titled Writing Dialogue for Comic Books and Graphic Novels, will be dropping on January 28th, 2019, and I'm pretty confident that it won't be my only book of 2019. But we'll talk more about that book on the next episode. Obviously, I want to get a couple of comics published this year, and once again, I kinda have a head start on that, as I've been writing a book for my good friend Marshall Lee featuring his character Glyph. It's a 4-issue mini-series at present, titled Glyph Blurry, which at present is just a working title. I'm really pleased with the direction that the book is taking, and I'm sure you'll be seeing the book as soon as Marshall has finished doing the artwork for it once I've given him all the scripts for it. But I've kind of realised that my stories and my style of storytelling is more suited to the graphic novel format than it is the comic book format. This doesn't mean that I won't write and illustrate comic books from time to time, it just means that my focus will be more aimed towards graphic novels. And in reality, it would be foolish of me to aim for more than 1 or 2 graphic novel releases in the year, but that really depends on the page counts of those projects. I mean, if I ended up writing and illustrating a 48-page graphic novel, followed by a 60-page or even another 48-page graphic novel, then I think it would be safe to say that a third graphic novel release in the same year isn't out of the question. But I also have to keep my prose work in mind, and I have every intention of getting a novel or 2 out this year along with some more short stories. Especially as while I was sick over the holidays, I did come up with a couple of short story ideas that I really want to write. And I'm sure I'll make it happen as soon as the time is right. On top of that, I would like to improve my art skills for comic books, especially with colouring. I've always felt that colouring is my weakness when it comes to illustrating comic books and graphic novels, especially as I prefer to work with just black and white art. But I realise that some stories need to be told in colour, so I want to actively improve my colouring skills throughout 2019. I've also mentioned, before the new year rolled in, that in 2019 I want to try and give up smoking. And this one is a difficult one for me because I like smoking and I don't actually have a desire to give it up just yet. But notice how I say I want to try and give up smoking, not give up smoking. I want to try, and if it works then great, but if it doesn't, then I can try again when I feel I will be more successful. You see, I feel that if I make a definitive statement about giving up smoking when I still enjoy it, then I will be more likely to fail. Whereas if I state that I want to try, I will be more likely to obtain that goal. And in all honesty, I want to try because I will have to give it up at some point, so I figure that sooner would be better than later. But like I said, I do enjoy it, which makes it a little more difficult. But you know, it's not all about goals when it comes to the new year. Sometimes it's about the stuff that you know is going to happen regardless and looking forward to it. I mean, there is obvious things like I'm looking forward to seeing Avengers Endgame, which at present is really the only movie of 2019 that I'm looking forward to. But that may change later on. I'm also looking forward to seeing the second season of The Punisher, which is being released on January 18th, so not long to go now. And then there's the third season of Stranger Things, which Netflix announced on New Year's Day would be dropping on July 4th, and they even gave us a poster for the third season. And of course, there is also the 4th season of Preacher to look forward to as well. But one thing I'm looking forward to the most is meeting the new little fox cubs and little hedgehogs that will be born in my garden this year. Mating season is about to begin for the foxes, and just as the spring ends and the summer begins, the newborn cubs will be up on their feet and exploring my garden for the first time. When that happened last year, I watched them play for hours on end every day, and I look forward to doing that again this year. But I will also get to see the newborn hedgehogs come out for the first time, and I can't wait for that to happen. It's going to be interesting hearing this episode back when the end of 2019 arrives and comparing what I've said here to what actually happens. Anyway, that's been my Christmas and New Year discussed, and I would love to hear how your Christmas and New Year went. So let me know. You can either email me by filling out the contact form on my website, or leave a comment on YouTube, and maybe I can go through and read some of your messages on the next episode. I've got some interesting topics of conversation lined up for some of the upcoming episodes that I think you guys are going to like. But for now, I've got to go and get back to work on some of these projects of mine. Thank you very much for listening, and I sincerely hope that you are keeping well. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and stay awesome.